What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today we're going to be doing another Hidden Gems video, and today I wanted to address the tight end position. This is a position that I'm actually kind of excited for this year because we get a lot of new faces on this list and a lot of fresh players for us to be looking out for to try to build around for franchise mode in Madden 22. Now I'm going to go in reverse order this year, starting back towards the end of the roster, or rather towards the end of the alphabet here in terms of teams, and we're going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The first tight end that I want you guys to know on this list is tight end Zach Gentry, who in most leagues is going to be available for next to nothing. As a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, though, and a Pittsburgh Steelers franchise player, I know all too well how good Zach Gentry can be. He is a player that is only a 58 overall, so he tends to be available in most leagues, often designated to the practice squad or cut for free agency. He's 24 years old. Yes, he's one of the lowest overall players on this list as a 58, but he is 6'8", 265 pounds. Not only that, but Zach Gentry is very athletic in comparison to his size. He actually sports 80 speed here, which is pretty good for a player of that size, 83 acceleration, and I think that those ratings are pretty low. If you took a realistic look at what his combine numbers were and things like that, these could probably go up even a bit if you're trying to make a roster realistic, but a name that you should certainly know to start off our list of tight ends. The next tight end that I like quite a bit because of Will Dissly and Gerald Everett being in front of him on the Seahawks roster is Colby Parkinson. The 6'7" tight end out of Stanford is a 22-year-old, 65 overall, so he's kind of the key definition of one of these hidden gem players on this list and in this series. This is exactly what most people are going to be looking for, and this is a guy that you can certainly have a lot of developmental time with and build him up to be a long-term star tight end. The next player on this list is actually going to be Jawan Johnson. I like this player a lot because of his athleticism. So with guys like Adam Trotman on the roster, Nick Van Ed, there is some competition going on here at the tight end position for the Saints, but Jawan Johnson at 6'4", 230 pounds has 86 speed, 84 agility, and 88 acceleration. Those are really good numbers for a tight end with his size. I mean, he's not the biggest tight end in the world, but he is a player that could be a vertical threat for you, and he is only 24 years old, and starting off at a 67 overall is a player that could certainly be built up if you feed him the ball. One of the returning names from last year's list is Josh Oliver, who is now on the Ravens roster. This is a 66 overall, 24-year-old player, but another player that is pretty athletic with 85 speed and 86 acceleration. He's a pretty good base to build upon, 6'5", 250 pounds, so a pretty average-sized tight end. He's a guy that's going to come down with a lot of balls and have the opportunity to be developed into something pretty good. You're probably going to get him for cheap because of Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle being available on that roster. Oliver oftentimes is probably going to see the practice squad or get cut or something of that nature, or he's not going to cost you very much to trade for. The next player on this list is a player that a lot of people are going to want to know about, and this is Jacob Harris. This is actually a rookie player out of UCF. He is 6'5", 215 pounds, so he's almost just a tall wide receiver type of body. He is 24 years old, so old for starting off as a rookie, but he has that 90 speed and 89 acceleration with 87 agility. That's the type of frame that everybody is looking for nowadays at tight end, a athletic, deep threat type of wide receiver basically at tight end. This is a player that, because he's young and he's a rookie, if you find an opportunity to get him, whether he's out there in free agency, maybe the Rams user doesn't know what they have in this guy and accidentally lets him go or something like that, you could pick him up and turn him into an absolute stud, so make sure that you at least know Jacob Harris's name. One of the best players on this list is tight end Foster Moreau of the Raiders. He's a 6'4", 250-pound tight end with, relatively balanced stats all around, 82 speed. He's not the most athletic, but he is a true definition of a balanced tight end. This is a guy that you can bring in and you can build up as a receiving threat, as a blocking player. He can do it all as a tight end. He's more of a traditional type of a tight end, and if that's something that you're looking for, Foster Moreau is a name that you should know. Darren Waller being in front of him makes him potentially available. This is always one of my top targets in franchise mode if I can find a way to acquire him. Yes, I'm also an LSU fan, but it does turn out that he is one of the better young prospects at tight end that you can build up into a very well-rounded, do-it-all tight end, and he's very good for franchise mode. One of the only older players on this list, but somebody that is absolutely worth mentioning that is, maybe the definition of a hidden gem as well, is Hayden Hurst, who is of the Falcons. This is a player that is going to lose out on playing time in many leagues because of the drafting of superstar tight end Kyle Pitts, who is a rookie with that 91 speed. However, a player that is very similar is Hayden Hurst. Yes, Hayden Hurst is 28 years old. He's a 79 overall. You kind of know what he is, but he is a very good vertical threat tight end. He's got 87 speed, 89 acceleration. This is a guy that's going to be available because of Kyle Pitts coming into Atlanta. So this is a player that if you're trying to bolster your roster, trying to give yourself an extra receiving threat at that tight end position, or anything of that nature, you should know his name and be trying to acquire this guy. He's not going to cost a lot because he is 28 years old. You should be able to get him for a reasonable price, and you can really bolster your team by bringing in a player like this, even if he's as a second tight end. Highly recommend that you guys have him near the top of your list as a player that is a veteran presence that can really help you out in the receiving game. Next up, we do have a returning name on this list, but not at the position that he used to be at. This is Tyree Jackson, the former quarterback. So this is a player that is going to be on my list for multiple reasons. Number one, you could take this guy and move him to quarterback where he is an absolute monster. This is a player that if you gave him the time at quarterback would develop into an elite player because of the way Madden franchise mode works, as long as you can do well with a low overall quarterback. But at tight end, he has even more value than that, I believe, because very rarely are you going to find a tight end with 6'7" frame, 56 overall, still only 23 years old, and relatively good speed at 83 speed, 88 acceleration, and a player that has that versatility to be able to do a couple of different things for you. So Tyree Jackson over here on the Eagles is certainly a name you should know. If you're just trying to experiment with things, if you're trying to find a young player that might be able to compete for a spot on your team, know Tyree Jackson's name. This is a guy that was on here for quarterback in prior years. This is a guy that can do a lot of things, and if he is given the time, he can be developed into a really good player in franchise mode. The next spot on this list is occupied by a team, and that is going to be the Cleveland Browns. Their tight end position group is a position group that potentially has some availability to you guys and some players that can be extremely valuable to you depending on who's going to be available in your franchises. Now, depending on how other players decide to play this, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, or Harrison Bryant, or all three, could be on the trade block and available. Now, obviously, the most expensive of those players is going to be Austin Hooper, and he's not quite so much a hidden gem player, but he's a player that may be worth inquiring about if you want an immediate impact tight end, because David Njoku and Harrison Bryant are sitting right there behind him. This team, if they are controlled by a user, may consider, hey, we don't necessarily need Hooper because we have these other guys. Let's go ahead and trade him away for some value. Likewise, if they decide that Hooper's their guy, David Njoku is a guy that has wanted out of Cleveland. He's a guy that has a lot of athleticism. He's starting out at 79 overall and still only 25 years old. He has a ton of value to an organization who's looking for a tight end that can come in and compete. And then Harrison Bryant, the young tight end here, 6'5", 243 pounds, pretty good speed, 23 years old, 70 overall, is another good foundation to build upon. So you have a choice here with the Browns, and most of these teams, most of the users that take over this team are going to have one of these guys available more than likely. So certainly know that the Browns have tight ends that are potentially going to be on the block, and look to negotiate with that team if you're looking to add a tight end in franchise mode. And the final player on this list is a returning name. This one is an obvious one. This is Albert O. This is the tight end for the Broncos who is sitting behind Noah Fant currently. This is a speedster. He's got 88 speed, 91 acceleration. He does have 6'5" height, which is pretty solid, especially for that speed, 258 pounds. Very athletic tight end, a guy that you have seen on my channel probably if you've watched any of my franchises that I take him, and I usually turn him into a very good star player. He can be very very good. Like I said, he's still only 23 years old. This is going to be one of the most sought-after tight ends that are out there, but again, Noah Fant's in front of him, a very similar player with 89 speed, 91 acceleration, so it does make Albert O expendable. There are certainly more players that could have made this list. I just wanted to name roughly the top 10 for you guys, so hopefully you found this information useful. If you did, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave your comments down below naming any other players that you want other people to take a look at and know their name. With all that being said, I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.